I had the opportunity of going into battle at the age of just 21. We really don't know what is going to happen. And everyone has that element of fear. So if anyone says that he was fearless, I don't think that is absolutely correct. Well, this stage comes when actually you realize that you're in the thick of it. You'll either come out or you won't. It's just one dividing line. Officially, the figures are that Pakistan had 93,000 soldiers who surrendered. So it was what I believe one of the largest surrenders since the end of the Second World War in the European theatre. There was an officer who had joined our regiment, and there was a letter from his mother which came to me. I gave him this letter. He was very happy. He opened it, and 2 days later he was gone.
Those memories do come back and haunt
you. They definitely come.
Because, it was over a substantial period of time when you went through, such mentally taxing, traumatizing, experiences and
absolutely,
and a lot of uncertainties. You never know what is going to happen, the next moment. Namaskar. We all have heard war stories where our men in uniform fought with a lot of courage and valor. We all have seen war movies where the actors, they play army officers and they pretend to be heroes. But today, we have a very distinguished guest today in our Changemakers series at Prachyam Studios. He is a real hero. He is a war veteran, and he has dedicated his life in serving the armed forces. Today we have Brigadier Ajit Apte. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you and welcome to our studio. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. I'm honored.
If I have to ask you, it's just a short introduction about yourself, sir, and then we will take this forward.
As you brought out, I'm a veteran of the Indian Army. I was motivated to join the Army because of my father, who also was with the British Indian Army and in the Regiment of Artillery, and subsequently he was a Second World War veteran. He had fought in 1947-48. He was there in the Army during 62, and in 1965 he commanded an artillery brigade on the Western Front during the 65 war. So obviously I was motivated, and that's how I joined the National Defence Academy. I studied in a public school, Sindhya School, Gwalior, then a military school, Shivaji Military School, Pune, and finally got selected for the National Defence Academy. Got commissioned from the Indian Military Academy on 20th December 1970 into the Regiment of Artillery, and I was lucky that I got the same regiment which my father had founded in 1956. So I had the great opportunity of fighting the 71 war on the Eastern Front with that regiment, and again God was very kind, and all the blessings that I happened to command the same regiment which my father had raised. About 32 years ago I commanded that regiment, and while my father was the first commanding officer, I became the 14th commanding officer of the same regiment, and then serving for nearly 36 years, I superannuated, and now, as you correctly said, I am a veteran of the Indian Army, and I am very proud of the fact that I wore the uniform for so many years.
Wonderful. Brigadier Saab, was this very clear to you that you really wanted to join the army, or there were other career options also at that time?
Well, to be very honest with you, right from the age of 5 or 6, I've always been in awe of the people in uniform, and that was my passion. When I was finishing school in class 11, in those days there was no class 12, there were very limited options, to be very honest with you, unlike today. So the only options were either you became a doctor or an engineer, or you joined the armed forces, or you took to some joining the police or the Indian Administrative Service or the Indian Foreign Service. But I told you I was very passionate about the uniform, and I got through in the first shot for the National Defence Academy, got through in the merit list, and so I never went to college and went to the NDA. It was my passion to be in uniform, and I was lucky that I got through.
The life of an army officer is very challenging, especially during the war times. What do you think is the primary motivation for individuals to join the army?
Well, you see, firstly, the passion to join the armed forces has to be there. That's point number one. If a boy, I mean, now I know girls are also joining the armed forces, but in my time, girls were only in the Army Medical Corps. And in my time, there are many boys who probably didn't have the passion to get into the armed forces. But why people would like to join is, one is the passion. Second is, if they have any other option which doesn't work out and they feel that they can join the armed forces, that's another opportunity. And in doing so, it has to be basically the passion to be in uniform and then to work towards it, and I'm sure one can get through. And of course the merit list is a very important thing. So it's that way how I look at it. The passion has to be there.
When a soldier is in the battlefield, sir, what typically goes through his mind?
Okay, that's a very good question, because I had the opportunity of going into battle at the age of just 21. I didn't even have 1 year of commissioned service, and the first thought is, we really don't know what is going to happen. It's the fear of the unknown, and everyone has that element of fear. So if anyone says that he was fearless, I don't think that is absolutely correct. We are all human beings. We all have an element of fear. Of course, I was a bachelor during the 71 war. I do understand what a married person feels like, but I was a bachelor, and my first thought was that something is going to happen, but we didn't know what. It took some time, and I was deployed in action in September 71. So firing as an artillery officer, unknown as to what is going to happen. No one knew. So there have been periods of deployment. In my case, it was nearly 4 months, but there were people who were deployed even earlier. But once the war actually started, I mean, for me it started in September, that element of fear disappears. There is some inner feeling which comes in. It's whether you call it the courage, and suddenly we get that josh that we are fighting for the nation. And nation always comes first. It's our own regiment, Naam, Namak, Nishan of the Paltan, the country. It just comes in, and that's what happens to everyone. I am 100% sure of that. Fear is there with 100% of us. None of us is fearless right in the beginning, but we have been battle inoculated in training at the National Defence Academy, at the Indian Military Academy, and we've learnt our basics at whichever regiment we have chosen. So we are battle inoculated, but the actual battle inoculation starts once the firing and shelling starts from the enemy side, and when we counter retaliate. But everything disappears and the nation comes first. I can tell you that I have that experience at the young age of 21 with less than 1 year's service, and that is what happens to all of us.
And then you go beyond fear, when this feeling for the nation, you're fighting for the nation, when this comes in, then the fear is gone.
Absolutely. That fear is gone.
And when does this stage come?
Well, this stage comes when actually you realize that you're in the thick of it, and you'll either come out or you won't. It's as simple as that. It's just one dividing line, and then ultimately it's your destiny. So we start believing in the fact, and I've had close shaves. I've been under enemy shelling, enemy bombardment. I've been under enemy air attacks. And the guns are major targets in battle. The enemy always goes for the opposition's or the adversary's guns, tanks, communication centers, logistic elements. So being a gunner and on the front line as a gun position officer, I did observation post officer also for a little while before the war started. So we know we are vulnerable, we are targets, the guns, the tanks. But when that happens, then that fear is gone. And you will have heard of so many stories of valor and courage. It's that raw courage just comes in, and after that, it's your destiny. So that thin line distinguishing as to fear, courage, valor, it all merges into nothing but desh ke liye, and we are fighting, and there's an enemy in front of us. So everything just happens.
Sir, you fought this war in 1971 on the Eastern Front. If you can recall and share with us some memories, of that, how it, it started, when you were deployed, what all you went through. I believe those were very difficult circumstances, and things are not like what they are today, because there were many challenges that you had to address first. So can you just elaborate on your experiences and memories?
Yes, thank you, Praveen ji. Well, I joined the regiment sometime in May, June 1971 after the Young Officers Course. My regiment was deployed on the northeast as part of 4 Corps, the famous 4 Corps which actually led by General Sagat Singh during the 71 war and was there for the surrender at Dhaka. But after 2 months of joining the regiment there in the northeast near Tezpur, my regiment was shifted down to Barrackpur, Kanchrapara, Calcutta. So I came in the advance party, and as I told you, I was a raw second lieutenant, and I was given some tasks to take over some maps and various other liaison activities in Calcutta, which I did. We were just 2 officers and our battery commander, we were in the advance party. So then I realized that there's a large concentration of troops in Barrackpur, large concentration of troops in Calcutta. In fact, my regiment had been there for internal security duties, which had commenced in January, February 1971. So I did a lot of liaison work in Calcutta for logistics, for getting maps, because there was a paucity of maps, and we frankly didn't know what is going to happen. I don't think anyone knew except the top leaders like the army chief or the army commanders. I don't think many of us knew what actually will happen. Though we knew that there's a refugee influx from East Pakistan, we knew about the atrocities being done by our adversary on the Eastern Front. So all that we knew. We also knew of the Indian Airlines aeroplane which was hijacked in January 71, and we gradually came to know that the situation across the eastern front of our country was not too good. But as a subaltern, we don't know much. So those were the trying moments, going to Calcutta, carrying out liaison in Barrackpur with the higher headquarters. But in September, there was a requirement for my battery to be deployed on the eastern front on the border. So I moved out with my observation post officers and the battery commander. We were just 3 of us, and I was the junior most. So we went, and then I realized that there was a lot of refugee influx, and these poor people who had been moved out, or they were fleeing from East Pakistan after Operation Searchlight had been ordered by General Niazi on the Eastern Front on the orders of General Yahya Khan, who was the Chief Martial Law Administrator and the President. I interacted with the refugees. At the same time, the Mukti Forge was building up. So I was deployed with the infantry battalion. My guns were there behind. And I did participate in a little bit of training to the Mukti Bahini in carrying out or conducting artillery shoots, simple observed shoots where they would call for fire from our guns. So I was there, I gave them a little training. There were other officers also giving that. And they were trying times because it was raining very heavily. There were slushy areas, marshy areas, the guns had to be moved. And all this was being done in September from 24th. I opened fire on enemy targets on 28th September, and then the firing continued periodically. Then my regiment built up in October, and we got to know a lot from our commanding officer that time. And gradually things started falling in place that something big is going to happen. But again, what? None of us knew.
Prachyam is about dedicating to revive our rich cultural heritage, the essence of Bharat. We are bringing to life the echoes of our glorious past.
We need organizations like Prachyam.
It is old as well as the new rise.
प्राच्यम हिंदू के गौरव की गाथा गाता है।
60 साल में हमने जो खोया विरासत के रूप में, संस्कृति के रूप में, उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं।
Our mission goes beyond creating content. We are sparking a cultural renaissance.
प्राच्यम एक उत्तिष्ठत का नाद है।
हिंदू समाज को जोड़ने के लिए और सच्चाई दिखाने का काम प्राच्यम द्वारा हो रहा है।
कई दशकों की एक आवश्यकता को प्राच्यम पूरा कर रहा है।
Prachyam is putting out is an urgent civilization imperative.
गुलामी की मानसिकता अगर कहीं पर भी अंदर धसी हुई हो ना, उसको उखाड़ फेंकने का काम प्राच्यम का कंटेंट करता है।
Launching the world's first Hindu OTT platform is just the beginning. We have much more to achieve.
पूरा जन जन सत्य से, तथ्य से और यथार्थ से परिचित होगा।
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है।
काउंटर नैरेटिव का आंदोलन आरंभ हो चुका है।
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.
I absolutely love it.
I'm very happy to be a part of the Prachyam family.
I extend my best wishes to you and your entire team.
एक बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा हो रही है, उसके लिए मैं हृदय से प्राच्यम का अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
Your support can turn this vision into reality.
Prachyam.
Prachyam. Prachyam.
Prachyam.
Prachyam is doing a very, very good job.
We Sanatanis need Prachyam.
People are going back to their roots.
It's important for our country.
Arm yourself with the knowledge.
It's almost like a movement.
This is a visionary endeavor.
प्राच्यम को सफलता के लिए साधुवाद।
Amazing job.
Strongly recommend do your contribution.
Support them, subscribe them.
By donating to Prachyam, you are just not giving. You are investing in our culture, our future, and our children.
Reaching out to the people with the results of the research, I wish them all the very best.
Join us on this journey. Donate today and become part of a timeless legacy.
There were small battles which took place because the Eastern Command had ordered something known as Operation Jackpot. Jackpot basically was to give support to the Mukti Bahini till 30th November. So we participated in that. There were small battles fought along with the infantry battalion. But since you asked me some of the defining moments, I must tell you that I had participated in the Battle of Garibpur, which was a famous battle fought on 21st November by our 14 Punjab battalion and the 45 Cavalry Squadron, the Armour Squadron, and my battery was moved up to provide additional fire at priority call to the artillery OP officer in support of 45 Cavalry. And I was there, I actually saw enemy tanks in front. I fired on one or two of them. And ultimately that battle was successful. Great credit must be given to the infantry battalion, to the armored squadron, and to our artillery and to our engineers. So it was a combined effort, and Garibpur was captured. Next day, our formation area was air attacked 3 times by Pakistani Air Force. They had their 14th squadron at Dhaka. They came with their NATs, And there were 3 runs over our area. As I told you, the artillery guns are a major enemy target, strategic target. The enemy tanks, all our bridges, and all these are vulnerable. So my gun area of my regiment was air attacked 3 times, but luckily the enemy pilots would drop the bombs ahead near the river line. And in one of those, at about 1400 hours, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on 22nd November, our Nats, which came in from, they were actually Karaikunda, but they had stepped up to Dum Dum Airport. They came in and they flew over my gun area, and a famous dogfight took place, which you would know as the famous air battle over Boira. So that happened over us, and the enemy aircraft were shot down, and our heroes were, flying officers, Ganpati, Roy Andrew Massey, Don Lazarus, and Suarez. And 3 of them got Veer Chakras, Roy Andrew Massey, Ganpati, and Don Lazarus. And the enemy pilots bailed out. One of them ejected over an infantry battalion, the Sikh battalion, and the other over the other infantry battalion. And on orders of the division headquarters, these 2 pilots were escorted by an armed escort sent from my battery, my regiment. They were brought to our regiment command post, and our second in command interrogated them, and we got to know that one of them was Flight Lieutenant Parvez Bedi, the leader of the mission. The other one was Flying Officer Khalil Ahmed. Both these pilots were interrogated. We gave them tea, cigarettes and biscuits. We looked after them very well as per the Geneva Convention. And I took out the flying map from Flight Lieutenant Parvez Bedi's flying suit, and then I got to know that who this officer was, a very dashing pilot. I believe he was a qualified flying instructor from the Pakistan Air Force, and the other one was Khalil Ahmed. So I blindfolded both of them on the orders of my second in command. They were then sent back to the brigade and the division headquarters. From there they were taken to Calcutta, I believe, and then they were flown out to Delhi for further interrogation. But later, in 1999, when the Kargil conflict took place, Flight Lieutenant Parvez Bedi, our prisoner of war on 22nd November 1971, became the Chief of the Air Staff of the Pakistan Air Force as an Air Chief Marshal. So that is one defining moment. One was, of course, the Battle of Garibpur. Then I had another opportunity where I had to cross a river, Kabadak, near Jhangargacha for the Battle of Jessore, where there was no bridge. It was being made, but my guns I managed to take on 2 rafts given to me kind courtesy my senior from the National Defence Academy, who was a captain with the engineer regiment, and I took a troop of guns in the face of enemy fire on this river Kabadak, about 8 kilometers away from a place called Jhangargacha, and then the rest of the battery built up with the regiment because war had been declared. So war was declared on 3rd December. I was there. We were at Boira. We were being shelled. We were also shelling, firing. So this was on 5th December, and the guns crossed. We were supporting the Jack Rifle Battalion. We had the armor squadron with us trying to do the amphibious crossing, which they did. So ultimately the regiment also built up when the bridge was made. Initially I had taken this battery, rather troop of guns. Then we all built up, and finally Jessore fell. It was vacated by the enemy, 107 Infantry Brigade of the Pakistan Army, and Brigadier Hayat was their commander, and they fell back to Khulna. So I entered Jessore on night 6th, 7th. We were firing for them for the battle, and the enemy vacated. So I distinctly remember entering early morning at about 2 o'clock, and I remember also listening on the radio that Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had declared Bangladesh as a new nation, I think just after the news that Jessore had fallen to us. And then of course, as you know now, we didn't know then, but we got to know that the US 7th Fleet had been ordered by the United States of America. The British fleet had also sailed from the Arabian Sea, and because there was a threat that the Pakistani troops may be evacuated by the US 7th Fleet. So ports like Khulna, Changla and Mangla were vulnerable, and our division was asked to swing down towards the southeast, that is Khulna. So I had the opportunity of moving with my regiment, and we went down towards Khulna. There were fierce battles before that at Shamganj, then at Siramani and all these places. So I had participated in that with my regiment. It was a very memorable moment that I can still remember 53 years down the line. And ultimately, on all our other fronts, as you know, 4 Corps had made tremendous progress under General Sagat, and the famous leap across the Meghna River. There was the famous Battle of Hilli, one of the bloodiest battles on the Eastern Front, and our Indian Army was performing brilliantly, and we had the adequate amount of support from the Mukti Bahini wherever feasible. But I think it was a well orchestrated event, and finally we managed to ensure that the enemy surrenders in Khulna, though of course in my sector the war continued for one more day. While the surrender at Dhaka took place on 16th, as you know, the airborne offensive took place with our 2nd Parachute Battalion of the 50 Independent Para Brigade. 50 Para Brigade was with us at the Jessore front, lest this battalion which jumped at Tangel, and we had the artillery battery also there, parachute battery, and we had the other column coming down from under General Gandharv Nagra, as is well known now. We managed to get into Dhaka, and the surrender took place there on 16th, and General Arora, the Army Commander, Eastern Command, General Jacob, General Sagat, and the Navy and the Air Force people were there. But in our sector, Brigadier Hayat, who probably felt that his brigade could be evacuated by the Americans, that didn't happen. And we raced to Khulna, and after the fierce battles at Siramani, Shamganj, and all these places, we finally got into Siramani. I was there for the surrender ceremony, and that was a wonderful moment. And again, we participated in that, witnessed that at Khulna, where the other surrender took place at Dhaka one day earlier. So I think it was a magnificent moment. We came back and were switched on to the Western Front, and so these are some of the most defining moments. I happened to occupy positions which the Pakistani soldiers had vacated. At one gun area, I saw a lot of Pakistani soldiers killed, maybe because of my artillery shelling and otherwise the close quarter battles. But we gave them all respect. I remember participating in actually picking up the Pakistani soldiers who had laid down their lives for their nation and giving them a nice, tribute and honor as a soldier would do to another soldier. My troops lined up. We saluted these people whom we laid down to rest in the bunkers and trenches and covered them up, because I didn't want my troops to see Pakistani dead bodies. It is demotivating. Our own troops, a lot of people were killed. One of our officers was killed. So these are moments when there is that element that we fought for our nation. The enemy has fought for his nation, but we treated them very well with respect, dignity, decorum and honor. So I think the 71 war is etched in my mind as having participated. Of course, I lost my cousin who was a fighter pilot in the Indian Air Force, same name as mine, Flight Lieutenant Pradeep Apte. He got a Veer Chakra on the Western Front, and he was killed in action on 5th. So that was one of the disappointing moments, but I was lucky that I came back safe and sound from the war, and I think it was a great memorable experience of fighting the war, and I think we liberated and created a new nation. in the Second World War, and we got rousing welcomes in Khulna when we liberated Jessore. It reminded me of what happened when the Allied invasion took place on 6th June 1944, when millions of troops landed on the 5 Normandy beaches to liberate Europe from the tyranny of Adolf Hitler. But there they were recapturing areas, whereas here the Indian Army actually liberated and created a new nation called Bangladesh. I think it was a wonderful memory that I have in my nearly 36 years of service.
Prachyam is about dedicating to revive our rich cultural heritage, the essence of Bharat. We are bringing to life the echoes of our glorious past.
We need organizations like Prachyam.
It is old as well as the new rise.
प्राच्यम हिंदू के गौरव की गाथा गाता है।
60 साल में हमने जो खोया विरासत के रूप में, संस्कृति के रूप में, उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं।
Our mission goes beyond creating content. We are sparking a cultural renaissance.
प्राच्यम एक उत्तिष्ठत का नाद है।
हिंदू समाज को जोड़ने के लिए और सच्चाई दिखाने का काम प्राच्यम द्वारा हो रहा है।
कई दशकों की एक आवश्यकता को प्राच्यम पूरा कर रहा है।
Prachyam is putting out is an urgent civilization imperative.
गुलामी की मानसिकता अगर कहीं पर भी अंदर धसी हुई हो ना, उसको उखाड़ फेंकने का काम प्राच्यम का कंटेंट करता है।
Launching the world's first Hindu OTT platform is just the beginning. We have much more to achieve.
पूरा जन जन सत्य से, तथ्य से और यथार्थ से परिचित होगा।
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है।
काउंटर नैरेटिव का आंदोलन आरंभ हो चुका है।
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.
I absolutely love it.
I'm very happy to be a part of the Prachyam family.
I extend my best wishes to you and your entire team.
एक बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा हुई है, उसके लिए मैं हृदय से प्राच्यम का अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
Your support can turn this vision into reality.
Prachyam.
Prachyam
is doing a very, very good job.
We Sanatanis need Prachyam.
People are going back to their roots.
It's important for our country.
Arm yourself with the knowledge.
It's almost like a movement.
This is a visionary endeavor.
प्राच्यम को सफलता के लिए साधुवाद।
Amazing job.
Strongly recommend do your contribution.
Support them, subscribe them.
By donating to Prachyam, you are just not giving. You are investing in our culture, our future, and our children.
Reaching out to the people with the results of the research, I wish them all the very best.
Join us on this journey. Donate today and become part of a timeless legacy. And finally, how many soldiers were made to surrender?
Well, officially the figures are that Pakistan had 93,000 soldiers who surrendered, which of course included the Pakistan Army, Navy and the Air Force and some civilians and some other people, but the total was about 93,000. But in my sector in Khulna, it was a complete 107 Infantry Brigade, part of the enemy 9 Infantry Division, and we were also Indian 9 Infantry Division, which took the surrender at Khulna. So it was what I believe one of the largest surrenders since the end of the Second World War in the European theatre. So it was a big score that we achieved.
And you all ensured that none of them could be evacuated, by the...
No, not a single one. We did know that the US 7th Fleet, which had quite a number of ships, as the 7th Fleet would, that they possibly would have tried to send smaller boats to evacuate the soldiers, but none could escape. I went to the port of Khulna also. I was ordered to go there before the surrender with 2 of my other officers from my regiment. We got onto the Pakistani ships, their naval ships, but they had all been abandoned. So I'm pretty sure that their sailors and officers had already been captured by our troops earlier. So there was no one who would get away.
Was there ever a moment, sir, when you felt that now this is it, it'll be very difficult to now live through it. And anything like that happened, like you thought that it was a really now final moment has come?
Well, I'll tell you, those memories do come back, because when one goes back, as you know, when we age, we become more mellow. During my service, sometimes we used to say, look, the number of people killed, the number of people maimed, the number of people wounded. In my own regiment, there were people killed in action. And there were, I do remember I sent 3 people on a patrol for something, and they never came back. Their dead bodies came back. It was a very, very disturbing moment as I stood in silence with my gunners, saluting these 3 people who in the morning were there, but within hours they had gone. And there were many others. 2 of our officers were wounded, some of our people were wounded. Even I had narrow escape. I could have been captured on 13 December because there's something known as fog of war. You really don't know what is happening. And I must tell you that today you've got all the digitization, GPS and all, nothing was there. There were no mobiles, there were no digitization, there was no automation. We had to rely on our own survey methods to find out the locations. And communications, we had heavy radio sets. Of course, the lighter ones had come in, but we were moving with the old radio sets, 62 and HM30s, Second World War vintage. So things were tough, and our troops fought gallantly. So we do remember, and I remember there was a Pakistani prisoner whom I met. I had picked up his briefcase from his bunker, and I met him at the surrender ceremony, and the number of people killed. So those moments do come back, but then one has to get over it. My own cousin, I told you, was killed in action. He was newly married. So that emotion, sentiment, it does come back. After all, we are human beings, but then we get over it. So that's how it is.
Must be really difficult to lose a close friend in your unit.
Absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right. There was an officer who had joined our regiment, and there was a letter from his mother which came to me, and I was just looking to give this letter to this officer. He was a captain, but luckily I met him at one place. The war had already commenced. This was on, I think, on 10th of December. I found him. I said, sir, this is a letter, inland letter, you know, those blue letters on 10 paise. They're all phased out now. I don't think anyone writes letters anymore. They're all on email or on WhatsApp or on Instagram, which I don't understand. But I gave him this letter. He was very happy. He opened it, and 2 days later he was gone. So a very trying moment, and I believe this officer was engaged. I don't know, but I heard he was engaged. I don't know. So these are very, very emotional moments. And we had officers who were married. I was a bachelor, so it makes a difference. Of course, my parents, my brothers were there, but you know, a married man has a different outlook. But there are disturbing moments at times, but then now time, I think, is a big healer. So 53 years down the line, things are a little different.
Yeah, but sometimes those memories do come back and haunt you.
They definitely come.
Because, you know, it was over a substantial period of time when you went through, you know, such mentally taxing, you know, traumatizing, you know, experiences and you know, a lot of uncertainties. You never know what is going to happen, you know, the next moment.
Absolutely correct. You're right. I've just come back from attending the 69th raising day or the founders day of my regiment, and my regiment was in frontline action in the Cham-Joria sector in the 1965 war. We had a lot of casualties, 71. So and I commanded this regiment, I told you, and we were 9 former commanding officers who had come. We had 7 of us war veterans. So as we stood by for the wreath-laying ceremony. We have a very special trophy made in which the names of the soldiers and officers of the 65 war casualties are inscribed there, and of the 71 war. As I always say, they are the ones who are the true heroes who never came back from the battlefront. They stayed on the battlefields to become liveth forevermore. As I stood there as a second lieutenant of this regiment, fought the war, as I stood there as the former adjutant of this regiment, battery commander of this regiment, and commanding officer, there were tears in my eyes as I paid tribute to these people from my regiment, and so did so many others, because we all understand how they have given their today for other people's tomorrow.
Absolutely.
With the naam, namak and nishan, not only for the Paltan but for the nation. For us, the nation is supreme.
Absolutely. Brigadier Apte, you mentioned about capturing these prisoners of wars. And as a true soldier and as an Indian, we have always followed the Geneva Convention for the prisoners of wars.
Correct.
We have honored, that, and we have given, a lot of, we have gone as per, the convention and as per the spirit of a true soldier to a fellow soldier the way it should be given. My question is that do the Pakistanis also have reciprocated in the same way if, our Indian soldiers were captured by them?
I don't think so. I mean, it's difficult for me to say because luckily I was not captured. But there was an officer from my regiment who was captured. He was serving with another regiment on the Western Front. And I've had some friends who were captured by the Pakistanis on the Western Front. Eastern Front, I don't think we had many people captured, but even if they were temporarily under captivity because our Indian Army kept advancing and we kept in fact taking prisoners of the Pakistanis. But I don't think, because now in hindsight, let me tell you, since Kargil has also happened when we do this interview today, I have served on the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir in one of the frontline divisions there in 1977. During the Kargil conflict, I was commanding a brigade on the Western Front. But I had a regiment which came under my command, slated to me from Kargil. It had fought the battle at Tiger Hill, one of the artillery regiments. It then came into my command. But we all know what the adversary has done to our soldiers. I don't wish to repeat it here because the whole world knows about it. We have followed the Geneva Conventions to my understanding at least 98 to 99%. 1%, down the line what a person does, we can't be 100% sure. But I am absolutely 99% sure India has maintained the honor code of the Geneva Conventions nearly 99 to 100%. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, I am not in a position to be so assured that they would have followed this, because we have had reports of the manner in which they have treated some of our prisoners. So I am unable to actually give a comment on that, but I don't think they would be like us 99 or 100%. I don't think so.
And what do you think is the reason that they have never honored, the Geneva Convention?
It's difficult to say, because the DNA must be different. That's all that I can say, because human beings, and there have been cases where they have also behaved well, I must tell you that. But overall DNA, the culture, the grooming could be one of the reasons where there is a disparity or there is a gap between what the Indian attitude is and what the adversary's attitude would be. I mean, that could be one of the reasons.
Even if there was no Geneva Convention, I think still, you would have given, the same treatment to those prisoners of war as a true soldier?
Absolutely. I mean, we are all human beings. And I'll tell you, when I buried this Pakistani soldier, my troops searched his pocket. There was a letter from his wife written in Urdu. Now, my regiment was all pure Dogras, and some of them knew Urdu. So one of the Havaldars from my battery, when he took out the letter and he read it, he said, "Saab, this letter is from his wife." We felt very sad. We said, the wife will not even know what happened to him. As we laid him down to rest, we all saluted. We put the letter back in that man's pocket. It's a very, very emotional moment. But that man is also a human being. He's given his life for his nation, and he's obeying orders from his commanders, leaders, politicians. So it happens that way. In our troops, we are also obeying orders, leaders, commanders, whatever our higher leaders, political leaders say, we are following that. So, but when you take it down brass tack level, soldier to soldier, we are all human beings.
Absolutely.
So the man has laid down his life, our people have laid down their lives. So finally the equation boils down to, we are all human beings, but unfortunately we don't think alike, and that is why there's so much of disparity, unhappiness. But soldier to soldier, we got to respect, and the Pakistani prisoners have paid handsome tributes to the Indian Army, because our officers who escorted their trains out from East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, they've written some wonderful letters to our camp commandants, and they've paid handsome tributes to the Indian officers and the manner in which we have treated their prisoners. So I think that's a great credit to us in India, that this is how they thought we have looked after them.
And subsequently they were all released, all the 93,000.
Yes, I mean, after the Simla agreement, as you know, in 1972, gradually the repatriation started from 73. I happened to spend one night in one of the, with one of the battalions which was looking after the prisoner of war camp in Ranchi. So in 73, just for my experience, I had a good friend there. He was a major, and I was happy that he allowed me to spend one night, and I saw how the sentries move, how the searchlights and the barbed wire, all that. It was an experience. So having fought the war, seen everything else, this is one thing which also I saw, and I saw that the prisoners were being attended to, on humanitarian grounds. Everything was being done.
Prachyam is about dedicating to revive our rich cultural heritage, the essence of Bharat. We are bringing to life the echoes of our glorious past.
We need organizations like Prachyam.
It is old as well as the new rise. प्राच्यम हिंदू के गौरव की गाथा गाता है.
60 साल में हमने जो खोया विरासत के रूप में, संस्कृति के रूप में, उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं.
Our mission goes beyond creating content. We are sparking a cultural renaissance.
प्राच्यम एक उत्तिष्ठत का नाद है.
हिंदू समाज को जोड़ने के लिए और सच्चाई दिखाने का काम प्राच्यम द्वारा हो रहा है.
कई दशकों की एक आवश्यकता को प्राच्यम पूरा कर रहा है.
Prachyam is putting out is an urgent civilization imperative.
गुलामी की मानसिकता अगर कहीं पर भी अंदर धसी हुई हो ना, उसको उखाड़ फेंकने का काम प्राच्यम का कंटेंट करता है.
Launching the world's first Hindu OTT platform is just the beginning. We have much more to achieve.
पूरा जन जन सत्य से, तथ्य से और यथार्थ से परिचित होगा.
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है.
काउंटर नैरेटिव का आंदोलन आरंभ हो चुका है.
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.
I absolutely love it.
I'm very happy to be a part of the Prachyam family.
I extend my best wishes to you and your entire team.
एक बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा हुई है. उसके लिए मैं हृदय से प्राच्यम का अभिनंदन करता हूँ.
Your support can turn this vision into reality.
Prachyam.
Prachyam
is doing a very, very good job.
We Sanatanis need Prachyam.
People are going back to their roots.
It's important for our country.
Arm yourself with the knowledge.
It's almost like a movement.
This is a visionary endeavor.
प्राच्यम को सफलता के लिए साधुवाद.
Amazing job. Strongly recommend do your contribution.
Support them, subscribe them.
By donating to Prachyam, you are just not giving. You are investing in our culture, our future, and our children.
Reaching out to the people with the results of the research, I wish them all the very best.
Join us on this journey. Donate today and become part of a timeless legacy. Brigadier Saab, the then government is often criticized that although they released, the prisoners of war, all of them, but they did not secure the release of our, Indian prisoners of war that were caught, by the Pakistanis. How do you, what are your thoughts about this?
It's a great pity. I know 54 names are there, and in fact, surprisingly, my own cousin, Flight Lieutenant Brigadier Apte, his name now figures in that list. But that is untrue, because I know for sure that he has been killed in action. His wife, my cousin, was newly married, and we all know because his remains came back, and with full military honors. The honors were done in Jaipur in 1972 January. So he is gone, that is 100% sure, though his name is there in that list. But there are people, and I know of some people whose wives I have met. It's a very sad event. So while we have released all their prisoners, 54 of them apparently have not been released. Why? Why did this happen? I am too small a fry to answer.
Well, I often wonder, and this is why I thought, I should ask you, because having seen the war so closely, having lived it, and, having captured, their prisoners of war, and then treating them so nicely as a true soldier, apart from the Geneva Convention, the then Indira government, why didn't they did not ensure that our soldiers were released, or at least exchanged at that particular point of time?
Correct. I know the government then should have been very authoritative, and in fact we were holding 93,000. We had the upper hand.
Absolutely.
So we should have ensured that first of all, let us be 100% sure that all our people have come back, and there should have been some documentation process to put this in order. Of course, I do understand, you will also understand, that in those days there were no computerization, there were no digitized records. So, but efforts should have been there, that while we have done so much for that nation and given them back everything, it's a pity that our then people in charge did not ensure this. And
was there some kind of external pressure, or was it like lack of empathy? What it could have been?
It's difficult to say right now, because of course it will appear now lack of empathy, because the 54 families, you can imagine their plight. They don't know what has happened. They do believe that their kith and kin are still there. Will they ever come back? It's a big
so nobody knows, sir, what eventually happened to them, or are they some of them still alive, or maybe?
I don't know, but there is an officer, a flight lieutenant. His brother I meet even now. He's a dear friend of mine, and as is being reported in many social media, newsprint, It's been going on for a number of years that many people have seen these people there, and their photographs have appeared. Apparently some letters have been written by them many years ago, giving the indication that probably they were there that time. Now of course I don't know, because 53 years have gone by, but I meet this officer's brother and he says that they still believe that he is there, and that officer's wife has also been across, taken there, and ultimately come back on a fruitless mission. So it's difficult to say that if all the 54 are still there, are they alive, what is their condition? I mean, it's only something which the two nations at the highest level will know, at the political level, at the diplomatic level, or at the administrative level. But for us, it is difficult to give any judgment or give any views other than what we hear and what we receive through media or through newsprint or through other information which may trickle down from the armed forces level.
So even they were there, after the war. So they would have been all incarcerated. What would have happened, or they were living there freely, or they could not come back, or
no idea at all, because you see.
So really, nobody could write even a letter back home.
No, they say that there were some letters which came across, maybe one or two, but again, the authenticity of that fact is only 1-to-1. What a father would have probably told the press or the media, that I got my son's letter and I believe he's there. So this is the only thing that is coming out. But otherwise, what I personally feel is we must make efforts to get these people back if they are there, and if they are in a perfect shape, whatever be the shape, they should be brought back. Absolutely. This is a national focus, it should be. But how it will get implemented, at what level, and how will the mechanics work to get them back is only our government will be able to answer.
Absolutely.
I mean, what efforts, but definitely, I mean, the families, you can imagine their plight. They are in the hope that one day my son, my husband, my brother will come back. So it's a very sad moment. And I still remember when I go to the National Defence Academy, I'm an alumnus of the National Defence Academy, and if you go there, it's a very sorry state to see we have a special table there with a chair turned, and the plate is there, and the names of some of these people are there, missing in action, not come back, we are waiting for you. So you see, that is how the armed forces believe. And 2-3 names there, I remember they were with me in training at the National Defence Academy. 3 of them are from my squadron. 2 of them were senior to me, one was my coursemate. But what happens, where are they, will they ever come back? That feeling is always there, and the armed forces always believe in that. That's why anyone who goes to the cadets mess in the National Defence Academy, he will see this one chair lying vacant but kept turned. The plate also, we are waiting for you, friend. We were comrades in arms. Absolutely.
Very touching.
And even the Air Force, when they fly, the missing man, they keep that one place vacant when they do the fighter formation flying, waiting for that person to come back. These are the ethos and traditions and sentiments of the Indian Armed Forces that we have value for our comrades in arms. We'll always remember them.
I hope the top people in the government, they listen to this, and at least now they make an attempt to secure if they are alive somewhere,
Absolutely, they must do that. And in fact, I remember a story from the Second World War. If I have time to tell you this.
Yes, absolutely.
That in one of the battles, I think it was the Battle of the Bulge, famous battle, an American soldier, a private, was carrying an officer on his back, when another superior officer told him that don't do that, this man is probably already dead, but you are being exposed to this fire. So the young man, Lance Corporal, he replied to the officer, he said, "No sir, he is my superior officer, and it's my duty to bring him out from this fire. And above all, he is from my place in the US." So he said, "Fine." But when they came back, both were found dead. There's another very famous story in our Sino-Indian conflict, 1962. There was a soldier, he was carrying another comrade during the Chinese war, and some people told him that, this man is probably dead whom you are carrying. He said, "No sir, I will not leave him. He was my superior, he is from my village." Next day both were lying dead. This is the camaraderie of the Indian Army, Navy and the Air Force. That a colleague, a buddy, it's hard, but we do our best. I have seen it in action.
So when you were fighting in this war in 1971, was your father in service?
No, my father, after commanding the brigade in the 1965 war, he fell ill. So though he was cleared for the next rank, he took voluntary retirement in 1966. So it's a coincidence that he retired from service in 66 September, and I joined the National Defence Academy in 66 June. So my father was not in service, but he had retired. He was working in a corporate company, and he continued to do that as a brigadier retired in Calcutta. So when I went to war in 71, he was in Calcutta, and
he must have been very proud of you.
Yes, I think so. He was, because when I came back from war, he had no news, because as I told you, no one knew anything, and he was very proud of the fact that I had fought in the war with his regiment. And I am happy that when I took over command of this regiment in 1992-93, January, February, my father was there, and he visited the regiment, and he was very proud that his son had taken over the regiment which he raised. He was the founder commanding officer in 1956. So some 27 years down the line, he saw his son commanding, and I was also very happy. Unfortunately, he passed on in 1994, but luckily he saw me in command. So that was a good moment, but we never wore the uniform at the same time. He had retired and then I got commissioned, but he came for my pipping ceremony. My parents were proud of the fact. So that was a good moment.
So there were a lot of stories, of the atrocities of the, Pakistani army, there in the present Bangladesh, that time East Pakistan. What stories or what you got to know from the people, from the civilians, from the locals, who were fleeing from there? What was the scenario there? What actually was happening?
The stories that were reported then, and they came out in the newspapers. Of course, we never saw the newspapers till we came back from the war, because there was nothing. But those stories are correct. I've interacted with some of the refugees. We gave them food. In fact, it was raining heavily, and a lot of these refugees were lined up on either side of the roads, which you will now see in various newsprint, various pictures are there now with these refugees, and a lot of rape, arson, looting, it was there. And I have personally heard this from the locals as we advance the Mukti Bahini. It's absolutely true what the Pakistan army and that nation had unleashed terror in East Pakistan. So we were justified in whatever we did. Our government then took a great stand. Though I know now in hindsight, so many years have gone by, that we were probably fighting a lone battle, because even the public opinion, whether it was diplomatic, whether it was political, was not in favor of India, and only the Soviet Union stood by us. So I think full credit to the Indian Army, not just because I am a soldier, but I think the Indian Armed Forces deserve full credit. And as I always say, it was an orchestrated action led by our politicians, the political leaders, the diplomatic leaders, the administrative leaders, and of course the military. And our commanders, General Manekshaw, one of the finest army chiefs. He was the army chief when I was a subaltern, and later Field Marshal Sam. He, the army commanders, the corps commanders, the divisional commanders, brigade commanders, my own commanding officer. I think it was an orchestrated war that was compelled upon India to free human beings from the misery and tyranny of another human being that was unleashed. So it is all true. Of course, I must say that possibly there could be 5% exaggeration, 5%. After all, when a particular incident is reported, let's accept the fact, but 95% was absolutely true. And I have heard it from their people.
Yeah, you have heard it,
yes,
and you know,
I've heard it.
From whatever I have read, you know, I was wondering, you know, that how these people could become such demons, you know, that how could they do this to another human being? Why did, you know, the Pakistani army did that, you know, rapes, arsons, murders, mass murders, you know, how you know, people in uniform could do that?
I think the human mind went astray, and the human mind of their top leader went astray. It's a fact. I mean, you know it well who was the top leader on both sides, whether it was east or west. Their minds had gone haywire. They had, I think, stopped functioning as human beings.
Oh.
You see, compassion is not there. Compassion is a very big factor in leadership. A leader has to be stern, tough, take decisions, take calculated risks, but empathy, sympathy, compassion has to be there. I mean, the manner in which the atrocities were unleashed is unimaginable, but it was there. These are facts. They've been reported by various people, by various journalists, and it is there for the whole world to see. So it is nothing that we are fabricating. We are only reinforcing a fact which the world knows. And at my lower level as a subaltern, I have seen this to some extent, but I have heard it from the people there whom we came across, the villagers, the refugees. That my biggest lesson before the war was declared was interaction with the refugees. They were all lined up near our gun area. We had to be careful whether there was any element which was working against us. So, but the way they were weeping, crying, they had fled. So let's take that into account, that I have experienced that, and as I said, the human mind had gone haywire. That mind was not functioning to behave with another human being with the due compassion. If that goes, then I think there's no one who can do anything.
Prachyam is about dedicating to revive our rich cultural heritage, the essence of Bharat. We are bringing to life the echoes of our glorious past.
We need organizations like Prachyam.
It is old as well as the new rise. Prachyam हिंदू के गौरव की गाथा गाता है.
60 साल में हमने जो खोया विरासत के रूप में, संस्कृति के रूप में, उसको वापस लाने का काम कर रहे हैं.
Our mission goes beyond creating content. We are sparking a cultural renaissance.
प्राच्यम एक उत्तिष्ठत का नाद है.
हिंदू समाज को जोड़ने के लिए और सच्चाई दिखाने का काम प्राच्यम द्वारा हो रहा है.
कई दशकों की एक आवश्यकता को प्राच्यम पूरा कर रहा है।
Prachyam is putting out is an urgent civilization imperative.
गुलामी की मानसिकता अगर कहीं पर भी अंदर धसी हुई हो ना, उसको उखाड़ फेंकने का काम प्राच्यम का कंटेंट करता है।
Launching the world's first Hindu OTT platform is just the beginning. We have much more to achieve.
पूरा जन जन सत्य से, तथ्य से और यथार्थ से परिचित होगा।
आपका ये प्रयत्न ईश्वर की आराधना ही है।
काउंटर नैरेटिव का आंदोलन आरंभ हो चुका है।
Prachyam is doing an excellent job to give you knowledge which you don't get in school.
I absolutely love it.
I'm very happy to be a part of the Prachyam family.
I extend my best wishes to you and your entire team.
एक बहुत बड़ी सनातन की सेवा हुई है, उसके लिए मैं हृदय से प्राच्यम का अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
Your support can turn this vision into reality.
Prachyam.
Prachyam is doing a very good job.
We Sanatanis need Prachyam.
People are going back to their roots.
It's important for our country.
Arm yourself with the knowledge.
It's almost like a movement.
This is a visionary endeavor.
प्राच्यम को सफलता के लिए साधुवाद।
Amazing job.
Strongly recommend do your contribution.
Support them, subscribe them.
By donating to Prachyam, you are just not giving. You are investing in our culture, our future, and our children.
Reaching out to the people with the results of the research, I wish them all the very best.
Join us on this journey. Donate today and become part of a timeless legacy.